Okay, if you're watching this video, I'm officially 32 years old, and I'm probably at Hollywood Studios right now getting my Toy Story Mania on. No secret that if you're watching this video, it is Sunday, September 22nd, and of course, it's definitely not Sunday, September 22nd, not even close. It's actually the 17th. I'll throw out the time travel completely out the door right away. So, like I said before, we started this thing called Cryptic Comments for these verses, and I come up with things that would work really well to tie the two together. So, we decided to come up with this one, and we brought up the term childhood. Obviously, this is a different way of dealing with childhood, and basically to say that everyone's a kid at heart, is basically what it is. So, AJ, we're going to find out what happens when Big takes on 13 going on 30. Take it away.
Alright. There's really no need to even mention normally I go through what exactly the movies have in common that I'm comparing.
Yeah.
I'd say that's pretty obvious.
Yes.
The big difference, though, is with Big, Josh grows into an adult overnight, but he's still in the same time period.
Correct.
Jenna actually just flashes forward to the future, and it's her 13-year-old self in the future in her adult body. So, surprisingly totally different circumstances, but pretty much the same concept, and more or less the same kind of jokes.
It's kind of a lot more like 17 again, to be totally honest.
Yeah. Jesus. Okay, I cried my knuckles a little too hard. Alright, so obviously I'm going to start by comparing the... doing the categories is sometimes really hard.
Yeah.
But basically, I've made this point before, but I just feel the need to stress it again. Really, the main point of the categories is just for organization.
Of course.
When actually comparing them.
Yeah.
Because, one movie could win what seems to be the more important categories, but it'll somehow lose overall.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really not much to that, other than just, if I didn't have the specific categories, I'd just be all over the place, like I normally am.
Which you are anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
So we'll start by talking about Josh and Jenna specifically.
Okay.
Well, the thing about Josh is he's like, once again, I'm really not that prepared. I'm just kind of going. I didn't really feel the need to revisit Big before this, since I pretty much know it front to back and have for a very long time.
Yeah.
I caught it on a movie channel once, like when I was 10.
In retrospective, you probably should have.
Once I get going, I'm sure I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Which is not a discussion we should be having on camera, but there it is.
That's alright.
Okay, so, I'll start with Jenna and I'll work my way over. The interesting thing about Jenna is how she changes. Because she's this innocent 13-year-old girl that's, she's not very attractive, but she wants to be, like, she doesn't want to be herself, she wants to be like the malls, she wants to be like the girl that grows up to be Judy Greer.
Yes.
Which something tells me is what you just read.
Yeah. No, it's a little higher than that.
Well, regardless, her friend that grows up to be Judy Greer.
Okay.
I forget what her real name is.
Lucy.
She's mostly known by her nickname. But, then we do the thing where she flashes forward, and she's still the same innocent girl inside this adult body, but the more she starts to realize, the more she starts to put together her life as a 30-year-old that she missed.
Yeah.
She's become this horrible, horrible person.
True.
Just this mean-spirited, doesn't like anything or anybody, totally bitter person.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting to see how people react to her, because they're used to knowing her. That's the big difference. Like, nobody really knew, like, in Big, Josh establishes himself as an adult from the get-go, like, as the 13-year-old in the adult body.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas everybody knows Jenna as somebody totally different, and now suddenly she has this 13-year-old girl inside the adult body.
Okay.
So, and she's very, it's really funny to watch Jennifer Garner's performance with all the things she does. Like, there's this particular scene that just there's nothing really, there's no attention really drawn to it, it's just kind of there in the background, but they're at this big, important board meeting, and Andy Serkis walks in the room, and as he's walking around the table, you see her, giggling to herself and unwrapping a fruit roll-up and wrapping it around her finger.
Nice.
There's this, there's that thing where, obviously when you're in school, you have to, like, write your name in the top right-hand corner of every paper that you do.
Correct.
So she's, they're getting ready to do this important meeting for the magazine, and the first thing she does is open her notebook and write her full name at the, in the corner. And there's, this, I don't know why this is so funny to me, but, she's looking for Matt Flamehalf, who is Ruffalo.
Mm.
And so she asks her secretary to find out everything she can about him. And the secretary comes back and she says, well, I got a hold of his parents, and so I just said you were, you know, this and this, and you were looking for this. And she's like, oh, you lied to the Flamehalfs!
I remember that.
And her reactions to her, apparently it's her boyfriend, this fucking tool who's a hockey player. He's also a complete dumbass, and he's like always walking around in a towel or doing a striptease for her. The first time he sees her, he's wearing a towel. She says, "Oh my God, you're naked." And he says, "Well, not yet." And he rips the towel off. And then later, her and Judy Greer are walking down the sidewalk, and Judy Greer points him out and says, "Hey, look, there's your boyfriend." And her response is, "Oh my God, it's the naked man." And the scene that always finished the trailers, I remember, when they're at the bar. Mm-hmm. It's like a bar and a restaurant.
Yes.
And they see that guy, and she's like, "Go talk to that cute guy over there." And she's like, "Okay." And she walks past the guy Judy Greer was pointing at and walks over to like this 12-year-old sitting at this table, and Judy Greer has to rush her out of the building. But of course, you know, then there's the what's great about her character is the way she has to come to terms with when she finally has a full idea of the person that she did become.
Mm-hmm.
And how, like, she completely abandoned her parents, and her and Matt didn't talk since she was 13, basically, and how she pushed everything out of her life away and basically followed Judy Greer and the 6 chicks around. It's never explained. She said when she was younger she wanted to be a 6 chick, and Matt has to tell her, well, you're involved, how can they wouldn't be 6 chicks anymore? How would that work? But apparently she, like, became their leader, more or less, as time went on.
Yeah.
Which added to her bitchiness.
Of course.
So it's, you know, a nice journey to see her go on, where she's basically righting the wrongs that she blindly acted on as the normal time went on.
Okay.
Obviously Josh is a totally different concept, because he doesn't really have something to correct or better about himself.
True.
I don't really know how much to go into Josh, but what really makes Josh the way he is Hanks' performance. That's
True.
the main thing. Just like the same thing with Garner. Obviously, Big was Hanks' first Oscar nomination.
Correct.
And there was the, I think I read somewhere, like, the kid that plays the younger Josh actually acted out a lot of the scenes adult Josh was going to be doing, and Hanks basically modeled it after that, to my understanding anyway.
Mm.
But it's really, while 13 Going on 30 does it in a really slapsticky comedy way, with a few serious moments, Big, while being hilarious, deals a lot with the serious side of how a kid would really react.
True.
Like his big, I like to think of this as like what was most likely his big Oscar moment, was when he's in the hotel for the first time, and Billy Lee's in there, and there's like gunshots outside, and there's like, you hear arguing in different languages outside the door. It's actually really scary. And he like basically barricades himself, and it's one long shot too. Like he's sitting there, and he's just listening to all this, and he's starting to like have an emotional breakdown, and then he barricades the door and hides under his pillow, and it's a really. I imagine somebody seeing 13 Going on 30 first before they see Big, and seeing the fun slapsticky way it's handled in 13 Going on 30, and then it's probably pretty jarring to see how Big handles it in a more realistic way. Well, that's not to demean 13 Going on 30 by saying it.
Not at all.
There are plenty of scenes where Jenna has to handle things that would be obviously used realistically loose in this situation, but because both of them go through these by way of magic, more or less.
Yes.
Unspecified magic, basically. But, and the thing is, he's never... You do get that point to where he does actually start basically mistaking himself for an adult. Like when he starts to blow off Billy, and after he's... That really disturbing scene that not many people really know how to react to. Where Josh, inside the 13-year-old inside the adult's body, gets laid. And that basically changes him for the rest of the movie, because it basically, he starts, he forgets what the purpose of this is. Like when the whole point is to just kill time until they can find his Zoltar machine.
Yeah. But
while Billy's out finding the Zoltar machine, Josh actually gets involved with his job. And Billy actually shows up to tell him about, finally after all this time, I found a Zoltar machine. We can be done with this. And Josh doesn't even, it's like Josh has completely forgotten the whole situation, because he's so caught up in his adult life now.
Yeah.
And then it's finally the ending, when he realizes what Billy was trying to say.
True.
And he comes back down to earth, and he leave that dramatic cliche scene where you leave in the middle of the big important meeting. And now, as much as I love Garner and how hilarious and heartwarming her performance is in this, just something about the way Big handles the character and the way Hanks played him. Like, you would think on the surface that Hanks' performance would be more like Garner's, where it's mainly comedy with some dramatic elements.
Okay.
In Big, it's pretty much an even balance. So, I think that was really the... Yeah. Well, another thing that 13 Going on 30 has going, as far as, why Jenna acts the way that she does, is the fact that they're really two different genres. Because Big is like this, plays off like this fantasy comedy, whereas, despite being a fantasy, 13 Going on 30's main genre would actually be romantic comedy.
Yes, it even says that on the bottom of the DVD case. The best romantic comedy of the year.
So, for this particular case, I had to take Big's side.
Okay.
So, next we will talk about the love interests.
Okay.
That would be Susan, played by Elizabeth Perkins, and Matt, played by Ruffalo. This one is pretty easy, because, not just because I'm on mark for Ruffalo or anything.
Yeah. Yes!
That was on accident. But
one of the greatest things you've ever said in a Versus.
That was an accident, but...
Sure.
Okay, so, the thing about Ruffalo's character is, the movie actually starts to sway kind of in a... I mean, it's kind of late in the movie, but it actually starts to sway in the fact that, in Big, it's, Josh that has to make a decision.
Correct.
Whether he wants to, be with Susan and be an adult, or go back with Billy and be a kid like he should be. The choice in 13 Going on 30 is actually on Matt's shoulders, because Matt is, they're starting to fall in love again, because Matt always loved her, it never stopped. But she just pushed him out of her life. But now that she's finally, her not bitchy self, and she actually, of course, has more of a mind about her at 13 than as an adult, obviously. She realizes how great Matt is, but of course, Matt finally managed to move on and get engaged.
Yes.
And his wedding is in like the next few days, of course. That's the way romantic comedies work.
Of course.
And the whole movie actually starts to rest on his decision as opposed to the main characters, which is a very interesting way to turn this on its head a little bit.
Very true.
And he's got a lot of funny lines too, particularly. There's this one moment that I've always loved, and I think it's just it's probably something Ruffalo actually said by accident or something, because it doesn't really make much sense. And I'm overanalyzing this, of course, but it's just one line that's always made me laugh hysterically, and I don't know why. It's when she first goes to his apartment, and she's trying to tell him what's going on, and she's freaking out. And she says, "I want a fluffy pillow," and he says, "A fluffy pillow coming right up." And he bumps into the wall. We're in his apartment. He bumps into the wall, and when he bumps into the wall, he looks at her and says, "Sorry," and then he walks out of the room. Is he apologizing for bumping into his own wall, or is he apologizing because bumping into the wall is delaying his getting the fluffy pillow?
I would say the second one, to be totally honest. People want something, they want it now.
And then there's the scene where they're walking around and they're reliving the night where her birthday party, when all this shit went down. And he was talking about when she was playing 7 Minutes in Heaven when he went next door to get his keyboard. And obviously, the way 7 Minutes in Heaven works. The way he feigns like he doesn't remember the name of the game, but he calls 7 Minutes in Heaven Spin the Rapist.
That's right.
You almost can't hear it because she starts to talk over him when he says it. But if you listen, that's what he says. Susan is not a very interesting character. For starters, she's basically the company's slut, more or less. Like, she's the one that's basically subbed everybody in the office, and her first scene is really funny, and it kind of gives this false hope that her character might be, really fun and interesting, because she's Josh is doing his interview, and then she busts into the room and she's talking about this woman who keeps changing her name every time she signs something, and they can't really keep up with what she's doing. And she's going through all the different signatures this woman has, and she's like, Mrs. Judy Hicks, Mrs. Donald Hicks, Mrs. Judy Mitchelson Hicks, sometimes with the hyphen, sometimes without the hyphen. Sometimes she spells the hyphen.
Wow.
But then, from then on, she's just kind of this generic love interest, and then she starts to act all needy. For the first half, she's with John Hurd, but it's like this loveless benefits relationship, more or less.
Of course.
And then she starts to go with Josh, and basically we learn from Paul, John Hurt's character, that basically Josh is just another
notch in the bedpost.
Yeah, whichever term you want to use.
I don't know. That's what I jumped to for some reason.
But then she's the one, that's like saying, like, what is this? Is this serious, or is this just having fun? What is it? And it's like, she's just not a very
likable character.
Pretty much. I mean, she has the moments like when he helps the kid with his homework at the dinner, and she's like falling in love with him for real. And I don't know. Maybe it's Elizabeth Perkins. I like her fine in About Last Night, but other than that, I think she's never really stood out to me.
The Flintstones? It's the Flintstones.
What acting gravitas can you get from the Flintstones?
Nothing.
Rick Moranis was Oscar worthy in that as Barney. Kyle MacLachlan.
And Halle Berry as Sharon Stone.
So clearly this point would go to Ruffalo.
Yes.
Flame. I don't know why. I think it's hilarious. His name's Flame Half. I don't know what kind of name that is. Next would be the supporting characters.
It's gonna be a while.
Not really. We'll start with big. The first one would probably be Robert Loggia. As McMillan, I think his name is. He's the one that owns the company, basically.
That is correct.
He has that great moment when they're on the piano, and we'll get to that later. There's John Hurd, who's basically the villain. There's the great scene where they play racquetball.
Yes.
And he literally fights him. And of course you have, this Josh, 13-year-old inside the adult body going, oh, nobody beat me up. Like, you didn't have to beat me up, I was just playing this game. There's when they're talking about the difference between what's a sport and what's not a sport when they're going, and he's like, he's talking about like when he plays video game hockey, and he's like, that's not a sport, and then he's like, it's not a sport if you don't sweat, and he's like, well, what about golf? And he's like, yeah, well, in golf you're not just sitting there letting a machine do all the work for you. And he's like, what about race cars? Shut up. There is Mercedes Roll, who is his mom, who has a couple of good scenes, like the scene where he forgets that he's in an adult's body and he just walks into the house, and she assumes he kidnapped Josh.
I remember that.
And then the scene that's half comedy, half drama, where he's basically on his work phone and he's talking to her as the kidnapper, and she's like, tell him to sing what I sang for him, like when he was young or something. And with John Lovitz in the other cubicle at work in this busy room, he has to sing The Way We Were on the phone.
That's
to
awesome.
his mom. Speaking of that, let's go into John Lovitz, who oh yeah. Also, while we're on this scene, I'll talk about another reason I love the Josh character. This is just one little moment, but it gets me every time because it's so fucking funny. Obviously, Josh is a very friendly kid.
Yeah, of course.
So he's it's the guy who showed him to his cubicle. Just the guy, says, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is when your payday is, this is your job, and Josh is like, okay, and the guy starts to walk away, and the guy is halfway across the room already, and Josh just goes, bye! Really loudly, and gets everybody's attention. And of course there's Billy, who is basically basically his best friend that he, the very, very loyal best friend. Who even goes and gets the address to the Zoltar machine after Josh has turned into a douchebag.
Of course.
He famously drops the F-bomb in a PG movie, something you can only do in the 80s. And in the mid-70s.
Very true.
So, Beetlejuice, All the President's Men were looking at you.
Yeah.
Did I miss anybody important?
Actually, Jared Rushton.
That's Billy.
That's Billy Longday. Josh Clark, Mr. Baskin.
We don't really get any of Josh's dad. I don't know where he is during all this. Actually, we only focus on his mom. I just realized that.
We have the Bensons.
Yeah, those are,
Freddie and Cynthia.
Yeah, those are like, Cynthia is the the girl that Josh likes and has a crush on.
Mm-hmm.
And Freddie is like her dorky younger brother that they know. And she's the whole reason that he makes this wish, because he's standing in line for the roller coaster.
Yeah, that's right. I wish I was big.
And he's too short.
Of course. We all know how that feels. Some people do. Most people do.
Alright.
Deborah Jo Rupp.
The mom from that 70s show
Yes.
is, oh yeah, she's the secretary.
And
Frances Fish.
yeah, apparently Frances Fisher is in the extended cut DVD version that was released in 2007.
It says she's Billy's mom. Yeah, I'm not aware of this. I have not seen said extended cut, but
Obviously, it's not the DVD we have before our eyes.
I love Frances Fisher. I'd like to see that scene. Then we have the sporting character from 13 on 30. Judy Greer is basically the equivalent of Paul.
Yeah.
Like she's basically the problem with her character though is she has that kind of jealousy thing the whole time.
Yeah.
But she's not really. Her being an antagonist is kind of very last minute. Like
True.
she gets like, she tricks Matt into thinking that Jenna doesn't love him. She was like using him, and tricks him into signing away his pictures and all that. And this is all like in the last 15 minutes, and it just seemed kind of like
Rushed?
yeah. I mean, I suppose they do. The bitchiness of her character is always there, but I was thinking maybe they should have kind of used a little more time in basically setting up the fact that she was gonna try to screw everybody over. I mean, you can see it coming from a mile away just because of the way her character is, but still,
Obviously.
it seemed very sudden. There's a hilarious performance by Andy Serkis. Andy
Yes.
Serkis is her boss. And she's like, there's this particular scene that's really funny where he walks up to her and they're like under a really tight schedule. Or a deadline, and he says like, my balls are in a metal vice right now, please tell me some good news. And she's like, how much time before your balls are squished? And he's like, hopefully never, because I'm quite attached to them. Yeah, pretty much every time he's on screen, he's doing or saying something hilarious. There's really no specifics to it. And of course, when he gets involved in Thriller, is magnificent.
Oh, anything involving Thriller is magnificent. That's an amazing scene.
Kathy Baker has a couple of scenes as her mom, which are mostly on the serious. Well, there's the one funny scene where at the beginning where she's like the mom that doesn't respect privacy and is all that, and realizes that she's stuffing her bra and shit. But then the second one is really more dramatic, where after Jenna realizes she's abandoned her parents for most of her life now, she goes back to their house and has like a rebonding.
There you go.
Who else do we have?
We have the young characters of everyone, of course.
There's Gaffigan.
Gaffigan is always great.
Basically, she has a crush on this kid that's like on the football team or something. He's got the jacket and shit.
Yes.
And he's got the long blonde hair. He's the dreamy look. And then of course at the very end of the movie, when she's on her way to Matt's house, she catches a cab. And the cab is being driven by this dreamy kid who has grown up to be fucking Jim Gaffigan driving a cab.
Chris Grandy, All-American.
And he's all like, hey, if you're single now, you can like totally have my number again. She also went to prom with him. Which she was very happy about when she was looking back through her yearbook, but not so much when she saw him.
Okay, let's see. We have the ranks.
It's worth noting that some of the a couple of the six chicks are recognizable, like Ashley Benson and Brie Larson. So, we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah, this is gonna end badly.
I'm gonna have to hurry now. Okay, I can do this. We got it. Okay. So yes, I would give the. You also got to throw in Susan and Matt at this. Also, I know it's kind of cheap, but they're supporting characters as well. Honestly, I would say there's also the girl that's her next door neighbor that she starts to hang out with. Honestly, I would give the supporting characters a 30 going 30. With Matt and Andy Serkis and just a bunch of these, side characters that are added to it. And Kathy Baker brings that heart to it. Kathy Baker, you might remember as the horny neighbor in Edward Scissorhands.
Yes.
Okay. Next would be the better musical moment, which would be, I think the song is called Heart and Soul.
For what?
Big, the one they play on the piano.
Yeah, it's Heart and Soul.
Heart and Soul versus Thriller. The Thriller scene is fantastic. Like when the party's about to die and everybody's about to leave and they're about to, basically, this will be the death of them. So Andy Serkis comes over to Jenna for help, and Jenna starts doing the Thriller dance. And just in time for Matt to show up, and she drags him out there, and he's like, I haven't done this in years, I don't even remember it. But of course, everybody is doing it.
Yes.
And it's this, it might seem out of place, but it's, if 13 Going on 30 were to go down as like a legendary movie for some reason, it would be, as a romantic comedy, it might be highly regarded.
Yeah.
This is probably its like main scene, like the scene everybody remembers about it.
Correct.
Speaking of musical moments, they're always associated with a movie, and it's basically the thing everybody remembers. Pretty much nothing comes to the legendary status that is the giant piano scene in Big. Like, it's just, I'd say it's probably my favorite scene of the movie. With him and Loja, and the way everybody starts to gather around, and by the end of it, they have this massive crowd behind them, and it's like, that's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like the magical things that movies used to do. Very true. That one big magical moment where a movie just really comes to its peak is that scene. So I have to give it to Big. Okay. The fifth category would be which one is funnier. This is kind of complicated because I just got done saying 30 Gone 30 is more of a... comedy? More of a, flat-out, complete comedy. Of course. Whereas Big has a lot of drama to kind of weigh in with the comedy. But the impressive thing that Big does is, well, mainly thanks to Garner, 30 Gone 30 is hilarious. Oh, yes. Especially, that moment with, just to name a moment. She's always, paranoid about how small her, tits are when she was younger. Yes. So, she's in the elevator with her next door neighbor, and she's like, I really like your dress, and she just grabs herself and says, because I got these incredible boobs to fill it. And it's consistently funny throughout, but the thing is what Big manages to do is, Big isn't just balancing comedy and drama. Big is balancing really heavy drama and fucking hilarious comedy. Like, when Big is being a comedy, it's not just being funny, it's being hilarious. Very true. And the way it manages to balance those out is very impressive. And I guess it's that balance, too, that makes it funny, because when you have this heavy drama scene and then you have, like, a hysterical comedy scene, it kind of adds to the comedy of it by how heavy and effective the drama was before it. So, that point would go to Big as well. And I pretty much just answered the last category. The last category is which one handles drama more. Okay. Like I said, 30 Gone 30 definitely has really poignant moments. Especially between them. Like, the scene, when I was watching this again recently, I actually almost, I hate admitting this. So I'll just leave it at this. I almost, when, they're at Matt's wedding, and they're upstairs, and they're talking about the past, and how they should move on, and all stuff like that, and how Matt's saying, he moved on, and he got engaged when she rejected him, and stuff like that, and he's basically shutting her down. But then he gets in the closet, and he pulls out the dream house that he made for her, that she threw at him, and he actually, put back together and kept all these years. Yep. And the fact that actually, had he not given her the house and had she not accidentally come across the magic dust again, the movie would have ended with Matt getting married and her being alone. Ooh. And the scene where she's, I can only imagine, it doesn't last very long because she kind of eventually gets away from it, but there's a scene where the last thing she wants is for Matt to marry somebody else, because she's realized that she's in love with him. Of course. So she sits outside on his front step and can hear the wedding from the backyard. And she's just kind of listening to it and trying not to break down. Yeah. But then there's this... It seems like it's really, really simple. But it's just this really great moment where... It seems like it'd be a really forward transition, and you're like, where the fuck did that come from? But it's actually really effective. I think the song is actually called Crazy For You. I'm not positive the actual time. Madonna song? I'm horrible with song titles. I don't remember. I'm not good with artists or songs, but the lyrics are like that. Anyway, that song is playing. I remember the scene, actually. That song is playing, and young Matt goes in to Jenna when she's in the closet. And she's pissed off because they thought she more or less blamed the horribleness of the party on him. But then, obviously, when she goes back to that scene at the end, it plays out the same way, and the same song is playing. But she comes out and attacks him and kisses him and is happy to see him. And they run up the steps, and he says, "Where are we going?" She says, "You'll see." And it goes from them going out of the basement and through the front door, and it's them as adults again, only it's their wedding.
Yeah.
That's a great ending.
Yes, very much so.
But, like I said, just the way Big handles the subject matter and takes this ridiculous concept and turns it into something that feels actually realistic is insanely impressive. And as much as I really, really love and have a great respect for 30 Going 30 being up against such a fantastic titan,
Yeah.
a titan in the movie industry as Big, I would give the point to Big.
Okay.
Plus preferring it overall, of course.
Mm.
Because Big is just this incredible classic that cannot be beat, probably by any movie with this kind of setup.
True.
But 30 Going 30, I'd say, is probably the next best thing we're going to have to it for a very long time, if not ever. So, that would be that.
So, next week, our cryptic comment is Adrenaline, and we're going to get some action on in this time. So, a
Totally
really,
different from this.
really nice action movie versus coming up next week. So, AJ, any parting words before the camera dies?
Nope.
Really? This is what we call mess ups.
You can edit this out, right?
Nope.
That's what you did with the Michael Shannon video. Remember the Michael Shannon video that's like 20 seconds? That was like,